For the first time in many years, I woke up without the suffocating heaviness that used to weigh down my legs. I didn't feel that dragging sense of exhaustion, that burning around my ankles, or the ache that made me wonder if I'd even manage to walk to the bathroom. Instead, I sat on the edge of my bed, blinked a few times, wiggled my feet, and realized with a shock that my legs felt lighter. Not perfect, but awake and free. Nothing like those blocks of concrete I'd been carrying around for so long. It all started because of something I did the night before that cost me no more than 5 minutes. It wasn't a pill or a glossy new cream, and I didn't have to book a miracle massage in a pricey clinic. It was just an oil, a simple, natural oil that has restored to me, and to plenty of other older people, something many of us thought we'd lost forever, the chance to rest without pain. And if you're reading this, maybe you know exactly what that kind of relief can mean. I know it's easy to be skeptical when you hear about yet another quick remedy that claims to fix everything. But stick with me. I'm not here to sell you anything or pitch a secret cure-all. I'm here to share what genuinely makes a difference, what's backed by research, doctor approvals, and stories from real people who, like you, aren't seeking a miracle so much as an escape from the nightly wear and tear. Because when you're over 60 or 70, every night you can avoid waking up with cramps, numbness, or that searing fire in your calves is as precious as gold. In this script, I'm going to tell you exactly which oil worked for me, why it does what it does, how you should apply it correctly, and which mistakes could sabotage your results. I'll walk you through it step by step with real-life examples and tips that you can start using immediately, maybe even tonight if you're ready. Be sure to stay until the very end, because knowing which oil to get is only half the story. You need to know how to use it the right way, so it can truly help your body recover. And before we really dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever tried anything like this? Have you experienced nights where your legs felt fine during the day, only to flare up the moment you lie down? If you have, you're not alone. Tell me you wouldn't give anything to feel that lightness in the morning again, to be able to stand up and notice that for once your ankles aren't throbbing. Let's start with why swollen legs are such a tough issue for people like us, especially as we age. Anytime you feel that painful pressure or notice your shoes barely fit by 6 p.m., it's not just a random annoyance, it's your body's way of saying something is off. The most common culprit is fluid retention, and as we get older, our kidneys weaken slightly. They can't filter as effectively, so fluids creep into places they don't belong, ankles, feet, calves, leaving your legs swollen and sore as the day goes on. Then there's the matter of circulation. With age, veins become less robust, and the valves that push blood upward lose some of their strength. When that upward flow slows or stalls, the blood lingers instead of going back to the heart. It's like a traffic jam in your legs, making them swell and ache. There's also a hidden enemy that many seniors face, a fear of movement or simple fatigue that leads us to avoid being on our feet. While resting might seem like the solution, not enough movement ends up compounding the problem. The human body is wired to benefit from motion, from little walks that pump your blood, from gentle stretches that keep your fluids moving. And when we sit or lie down for too long, the discomfort can get worse. To top it off, we often have to consider side effects from various medications, diuretics, blood pressure pills, or heart treatments, many of which alter fluid balance or affect circulation. The result can be heavy, achy legs that make even walking across the living room feel overwhelming, or that sting and cramp enough to jar you awake at 3 a.m. None of this ruins your evening. It spills into every aspect of life. When your legs hurt, you lose the drive to go out, to do groceries on your own, to climb stairs, or even to keep your body active. The moment you give in to that pain and cut back on movement, there's a downward spiral. You move less, the swelling gets worse, you sleep poorly, you become more tired. The cycle repeats until something as simple as taking a stroll through the neighborhood turns into a feat of endurance. So, where does the oil come in? The main reason I'm so convinced about this solution is that I tried everything from so-called miracle creams to soaking my feet in buckets of ice, from foam pillows stacked under my knees to prescriptions that left me feeling worse. I wanted pure, genuine relief. That's when someone mentioned a natural oil that older generations relied on. They said, give it 5 minutes before bed. Nothing fancy, just a gentle massage, and it'll do wonders for fluid buildup and circulation. That claim made me curious enough to try. Let me share the story of Teresa, who's 79 and spent years fighting her own legs. If she ever told you about her daily routine a few months ago, it would include multiple medication attempts, cold patches on her ankles every night, and propping her feet on every sofa cushion she could find. She tried so many different approaches that her evenings became more like an endless checklist than a peaceful wind-down. Then, a neighbor suggested she try a simple oil application to encourage blood flow while she slept. Teresa shrugged it off at first. She wasn't big on natural remedies, but desperation can open your mind. One especially troubling evening, she decided she had nothing to lose. She warmed a small amount of oil in her hands, started at her ankles, and worked her way up in slow, circular motions. She didn't press hard, just enough to spread warmth and get the fluid moving. That night, she didn't wake up with her usual burning sensation. The second night, she realized that she hadn't jumped out of bed at 2 a.m. from a cramp. Within a week, the usual stiffness that greeted her in the morning was noticeably lighter. She didn't leap out of bed like a gymnast, but she wasn't dreading that first step onto the floor. And that small shift allowed her a newfound calm. She'd found something that approached her pain in a way no pill or cold gel ever had. It wasn't a one-shot miracle, but it was real, it was gentle, and over the following weeks it kept getting better. Of course, the question you probably have is, so which oil can do all that? The answer is often Arnica Oil, sometimes mixed with a drop or two of Cypress or rosemary essential oils. Arnica has a long reputation for its ability to reduce swelling and bruising. It contains unique compounds that can help drive out fluid accumulation and improve the small blood vessels in your legs, so the circulation in those inflamed areas is more efficient. Cypress oil supports the veins by mildly narrowing them, nudging the blood upward instead of letting it pool. Meanwhile, rosemary does more than just add a pleasant herbal scent. It helps calm soreness and has been studied for its circulation-boosting properties. Combined, they become a straightforward blend that can significantly offset the heavy legs phenomenon, especially if you integrate them into a regular, soothing massage. All of the oils we mentioned today, from arnica to lavender, you'll find carefully selected links for each one right below this video in the description box. I am sure you've come across mentions of carrier oils like sweet almond coconut or jojoba. They dilute essential oils so your skin is protected and they make the application smoother. I won't bombard you with excessive details on each carrier oil. Just know that all three are mild and safe for older skin. So pick one you like. The important takeaway is to blend a tablespoon or so of the carrier oil with a few drops of the essential oils you're drawn to. Testing a small patch on your forearm first is always smart to make sure you don't have any reaction. Then, gently spread it upward from your ankles through your calves to your knees. Think of it like telling your body, we're moving fluid up and out. We're letting the blood flow more freely. The process doesn't have to be aggressive or time-consuming. A few minutes is enough to invite your legs to relax. Now, as you hear all this, maybe you're wondering if these ideas stay afloat under a scientific lens or if they're just old wives' tales. That's fair. The good news is that multiple studies have compared topical Arnica to standard anti-inflammatory gels and found it can reduce swelling and help with aches, especially in older adults with mild to moderate circulation issues. Rosemary and cypress show similar promise. They've been researched in contexts where improved blood flow and fluid drainage were the goals. There's also the perspective of doctors who are open to integrative or alternative treatments, many of whom see in their clinics that older patients who apply these oils before bed often report more restful nights and less reliance on medication. But let's step back for a second. Even the best remedy won't do much if it's used incorrectly. One of the biggest mistakes is thinking you can just pour on half a bottle of oil to speed things up. That's not how it works. Essential oils are powerful, concentrated extracts from plants. A couple of drops go a long way. Using more can irritate your skin and even cause headaches or nausea. Another common stumbling block is applying the oil once, not seeing an overnight miracle, and giving up. It takes consistency. This is more of a gentle, night-by-night improvement than a bold switch from being 80 years old to feeling 20 again. Consistency in motion is how the body adapts. You might notice on night 3 or 4 that you're still occasionally stiff, but you haven't had that middle-of-the-night jolt from scorching calf cramps. On night 8 or 9, you find your ankles aren't ballooning as badly in the afternoon, so it's easier to move around the house. By week 2, you might realize your feet don't ache as immediately when you stand up, and that alone can lift your spirits. Another pitfall is skipping other healthy habits. You can't rely solely on this oil if you sit for 14 hours a day in one spot waiting for a miracle. If possible, get a little movement in your routine. You don't need to run a marathon. Just walk around the block, do light stretching, or flex your ankles gently every hour or so. Even minimal activity keeps blood circulating, which sets the stage for the oil's effects. It's also wise to watch how much salt you're eating, especially at dinner. Excess sodium can cause your body to hold onto water, leaving you with swollen feet the moment you slip under the covers. These smaller changes, combined with the oil routine, can really accelerate your progress. Maybe you're wondering if this oil only works on your legs, or if it can somehow help you sleep better too. Many older adults discover that the act of massaging and focusing on slow breathing calms not just their legs, but their minds. Some even add a drop of lavender or chamomile if they really want a relaxing effect. The entire nighttime ritual sends a gentle signal to your brain. It's time to slow down, care for yourself, and invite deep rest. After all, a major part of recovery happens during sleep. When your body relaxes, your blood vessels widen, and your blood pressure dips a little, making it easier for fluids to flow and for muscles to repair. If you've spent night after night twisting and turning from calf pain, that alone can keep your stress hormones too high for proper rest. So, once you experience a night or two of calm, your system might finally let go of that fight or flight mode, allowing you to drift into a more peaceful slumber. You might also be asking, but how do I know which brand to buy or if I'm getting something genuine? That's a fair concern, especially when there are so many imposters out there. A straightforward piece of advice is to look for oils from reputable sellers that show the plant's full name. For instance, if you want real arnica, the label might say Arnica Montana, or a similarly precise botanical identifier. Watch out for suspiciously cheap offers that list parfum or fragrance in the ingredients. In the same way, consider giving it a do-it-yourself twist. If you grow or can source dried arnica flowers, you can infuse them in a jar of almond or olive oil for a couple of weeks in a warm space. This homemade infusion won't be as potent as distilled essential oil, but it still carries anti-inflammatory properties that older adults find soothing. By now, you've probably noticed that relief doesn't come from the oil alone. It's about creating an environment of rest and recovery, especially at night. One tip is to elevate your legs after applying the oil. Lie down and prop your legs on a couple of pillows or against the wall for about 10 minutes. This gentle angle helps the fluid drain back into your core so it can be processed and expelled. That means less swelling comes morning. Another idea is to stay reasonably hydrated, even if you sometimes worry about extra bathroom trips. If you let yourself get too dehydrated, your body tries to store water wherever it can, including your ankles and feet. A small glass of water or a mild tea a little before bed can do more good than harm, as long as you're not chugging huge amounts right at midnight. If you want an actual routine, think of it this way. You conclude your evening, maybe an hour or two after dinner. You turn down the lights so they're not too bright. You place a towel on your bed or a chair, pour a little oil into your hand, and gently glide it over your ankles, carefully massaging upward, taking slow breaths as you do it. If you like, you can add a drop or two of lavender for extra relaxation. Then you lie down with your legs raised, letting the day's tension flow away. You don't check your phone. You don't worry about tomorrow's errands. It's just a quiet moment of calm. If you find the dedication to make this a habit, each week you'll likely see small but real victories. Fewer nighttime jolts of pain, less fluid retention by evening, and perhaps an easier time stepping out of bed. Something that also surprises many older adults is that this routine can affect their mood and daily energy. When you aren't forced awake by pain, you wake up feeling genuinely rested. That leads to a bit more energy, which might inspire you to move more during the day, which keeps you in better shape, which in turn leads to lighter legs in the evening. This positive cycle is the polar opposite of the destructive one we started with. And you end up feeling more engaged with your life, doing the things you used to avoid, whether it's walking to the corner store or meeting a friend for coffee. I don't want you to think, however, that this is a permanent fix for every leg-related ailment. If you have serious vascular issues, complications like varicose veins, or advanced arthritis, you should still follow your doctor's treatment plan. But adding this nighttime oil ritual has helped so many people, including those with pre-existing conditions. Just remember, it's not a magical replacement for medication or medical advice, but it can be a profoundly helpful supplement, one that doesn't fill your body with new chemicals. In fact, many medical professionals these days are looking at strategies from integrative medicine exactly because of this advantage. They see that combining gentle, natural methods with standard treatments often raises a patient's overall quality of life. One of the most common questions I get from those who've heard about the oil is, what kind of results should I expect, and when? Let me gently remind you, Your legs might not transform overnight, so be patient. Some notice immediate improvements in how they sleep because the oil and massage alone relax the muscles enough to prevent violent cramps. Others may take a bit longer, maybe a week or two, before they see a drop in swelling. This depends on factors like how sedentary you are, your body's overall health, your diet, and of course, how faithfully you keep up with this ritual. But if you stay consistent, you may be pleasantly surprised when you realize you haven't had a midnight calf cramp in 5 days, or that your shoes feel more comfortable even though it's late afternoon, or that you're starting mornings without that mental dread of, "Oh no, my legs again." One subtle reminder: think back to how you felt waking up this morning. Was there that pulse of discomfort? Did you have to brace yourself while standing up? Or maybe you practically hopped out of bed without giving it much thought. And that alone is an understated miracle for all of us who deal with leg pain. That sense of freedom in your own body is priceless, and it's what we're trying to recapture here by nurturing our legs with a gentle routine. If you're still skeptical, let me assure you that I get it. We've all seen the snake oils and fancy commercials promising the moon, but the difference with a technique like this is that it's transparent. You know exactly what's going into the oil. You're applying it yourself, in your own home, and you can adjust it based on your comfort level. There's no hype, just you, a few drops of plant-based extracts, and a willingness to gently coax your legs into a better state. If you stay dedicated, it could be the turning point that finally shows you there is a path out of the endless cycle of discomfort. Let me ask you again, have you ever tried anything like this before? Have you ever massaged your legs, especially around the ankles and calves, right before sleep, and then noticed even a small difference when you woke up? Maybe you tried it once or twice, but didn't feel much and figured it was a waste of time. If that's the case, consider giving it another shot, but consistently this time. The older we get, the more our bodies like steady habits rather than occasional impulses. Because after so much time looking for solutions, wouldn't it be a relief to find something straightforward, non-invasive, and surprisingly effective? By now, you have a roadmap: the oil, the light massage, the angle of your legs, the breathing, the awareness of small details like hydration and salt intake. Imagine incorporating these steps into a calm, pre-sleep routine. What if you also started to drift off easier? Not just because your legs felt better, but because you took that moment to slow your entire system down. It's a small shift with big potential consequences. And once you start seeing those small yet meaningful results, you might just want to share the idea with someone else who's struggling, because far too many friends, neighbors, and relatives go to bed every night listening to the same internal monologue about pain, trying to adjust pillows, and searching for that elusive position that doesn't make their ankles throb. I'm not going to pretend this is the only step you'd ever need, but if you've gone this far and are considering it, it's worth remembering many of us want the same outcome at the end of the day: to sleep peacefully and wake up feeling functional, capable, and not chained down by aches. If a simple oil, a brief massage, and a mindful routine can hand you those moments of relief on a silver platter, I say it's worth it. And whether your goal is to walk farther, climb stairs more confidently, or just enjoy a full night's rest, without that burning in your calves, give yourself permission to explore this old yet effective approach. And if you're ready to try it yourself, I've placed links to the original, trusted products down in the video description below. If you decide to do it, let me know how it goes. Let me know your age, your situation, and what changes you notice in your body or your mood when morning comes. To me, stories like Mrs. Teresa's illustrate so clearly that sometimes the biggest transformation starts with the smallest shift. And if you know anyone else who's plagued by swollen, restless legs, share this information with them as well. You might be handing them their first hopeful sleep in a long time, because in the end, it's about reclaiming something precious we thought had slipped away forever. Let's remember that feeling of sitting up in bed, blinking a few times, moving our feet, and realizing there's no jolt of pain or suffocating heaviness, only relief. That's the real reason I share these words, to remind us it's still possible to rediscover that sensation, no matter how many decades we've left behind.